Welcome to Growth with Portia, a weekly conversation for your personal and professional growth. Here is your host, Portia Booker.
Hey, listeners, welcome to Groove with Portia. I'm your host, Portia Booker, and yes, this is my real name. So, question for you. Did you bring your curious mind today? If so, I don't want to keep you waiting. Let's dive in. I love to share with people that the word vision has two letter I's for a reason. When we have an idea, whether it's for a book, a business, an art project, to go back to school, right? That gift that was implanted in our brain was only given to one person. So my advice to anybody who's tuning in right now, pursue that vision, whether you are supported or not. So question for my listeners today, what will you do to take that vision and put it inside of the boat of fruition? Let that sink in. So today, I am joined by someone I would call a visionary who is on a mission to help educators and coaches create a life full of experiences and abundance using nothing other than vision boards. So welcome to Groove with Portia, founder of Dare to Declare, Miss Debbi Sluys. How you doing today?
I am fabulous. I just love your energy. Thank you so much for having me.
So for our listeners who are tuning in, Debbi, I got to say this. I had the opportunity to meet Debbi literally 2 weeks after I left my corporate job, y'all. I mean, talk about divine timing. When you say take a leap of faith when a vision is ingrained in you, I took the leap. I mean, literally, my friend, little digression, a good friend of mine I was talking to on the phone who lives in the UK. I was walking my dog outside and she said, Portia, you're going to quit your job today. This was the beginning of March. And I start laughing. Of course, I'm like, what is she talking about? Like, I'm going to quit my job. And then this cardinal comes flying in the tree and is humming and singing. Sure enough, she was right. I sent in my resignation at noon that same day. So when you talk about a vision standing so tall in front of you that you can't maneuver around it, you have no choice but to address it. That's exactly what I did. So here I am today, entrepreneur full time. So I digress. Debbi, I'd love to start off my conversation with gratitude. What are you grateful for today?
I am grateful for my relationship with my husband. If you see behind me, you can see the bouquet of flowers. And we've been married for 33 years.
Wow.
And we've had our ups and downs like any marriage. But yesterday, this hasn't happened, I don't know, since Valentine's, but I shared with him my weekend. I just was in some training and I was sharing it with him. And I came home and we were together for a couple of hours. I didn't even know. I came downstairs to do a call about 7 p.m. and there's this bouquet sitting on my desk. And it was just so thoughtful. It's my favorite, white, all white. And so I just had to show it off behind me because I want to enjoy it. I don't want to tuck it away upstairs where I don't see it in my workspace. So, and I thought anybody that's coming on the calls with me, they can see it too.
You know, it's the little things. It really is those little things that, to me, make up the biggest part of our day. Like for me, every single morning, I start off with gratitude. People ask me all the time, Debbi, Portia, are you really up at 3:45 in the morning writing in your gratitude journal? Yes. If you see my Instagram and Facebook story, it is me. I am up. And one of the things that I can say I'm grateful for every morning is the stillness and the quiet. Because let's be honest, Debbi, we live in a world where we're on the constant go, whether it's on Zoom calls with clients or, Zoom calls with new people or with, our friends catching up if we live thousands of miles away. We're always connected and we're never disconnected enough to reconnect with ourselves. So I can definitely relate to the little things in life. So Debbi, I got to ask this for our listeners who are tuning in. I mean, you've literally taken something that a lot of people tend to, I hate to say, not use effectively, vision boards. And I can say for me, I'm one of those people, knock on wood, where I keep my vision board literally in front of me 24/7, where I'm looking at it multiple times a day and recognizing, oh my God, I've checked this off already. Like, holy crap, I've checked that off already. So Debbi, for our listeners who are tuning in, maybe can you shed some light on what are the common misconceptions people have about using a vision board to achieve their goals and dreams?
Sure. Well, I think one of the main things is that it's just a fun art project, and it is fun. But I think many people think, A, they have to be artistic, they have to be crafty, and it's just sort of a frivolous kind of New Year's Eve kind of fun party trick. It's like a paint party where you just gather a group of friends and you throw some images on the board, and then magically it just manifests. Now, it can, and it does. I've heard people that have done it that way, but I'll tell you, it takes a long time. It's like, 20 years later, they find their dusty old vision board under their bed and they're like, oh my word, it manifested, but it took 20 years. So the misconception is that, it's kind of a mystical kind of frivolous kind of thing, where is if you get really intentional and you get the attention of the universe by declaring it, by being, like I said, really purposeful with your choice of images. Like you talked earlier about your want, how do you manifest that that desire, that vision? It's about getting really clear on what you want. And most people really, I think the other misconception is it's just coming from the conscious mind, and people are just doing what everybody else is doing. Like, oh, I want a big house. I want a luxury fancy car. I want, to make $1 million, but there's no emotion behind it. And the secret is the emotion, because when we have emotion, it goes from a thought, which is sort of in the other realm. I hope I'm not freaking any of your listeners out, but it's in this other realm. But when we actually experience an emotion tied to that image, that vision, that then creates a vibration. Like, when you are feeling anxious or stressed, like you literally can feel your throat kind of close up, or you can feel your cheeks get hot, you can feel it in your shoulders, maybe, the stress in your neck. Well, those are all emotions, and we're typically attuned more to the negative because we feel pain. But the same is true of positive emotion. So when we're connected to our desires, it actually creates a vibration in our body. And then it goes from that other realm into the physical realm. So we actually are already beginning to vibrate, which then is going to attract what we desire to us. So that's a long answer to your question.
No,
I geek out on this stuff.
No, and that's perfect because you really set the tone. It's based on intentionality. You said it. We all go, a lot of us do. We use the conscious mind, like, oh, I want the big house, I want the fancy car. But where is that emotional attachment to it? Is it truly your desire, or is it just more of the hype approach where, oh, my next door neighbor has this, and this is part of quote unquote living the American dream, or whatever type of dream you aspire, but is that truly your dream? Right? So it definitely boils back to intention. What does it really mean to you? And also, you said it, taking action. A lot of people, 20-30 years later, oh, I finally paid off $30,000 in student loan debt and I'm 75. Like, but it doesn't have to be that lengthy. So, Debbi, I got to ask you this. Considering that this is what you do, how many vision boards do you go through in a year for you?
I only go through one, but I'll say 1.5. So I actually have a power word as well that I create. So for anyone that's listening, that's a really great place to start. So if this sounds overwhelming, like, I don't know, like to get the magazines, and because this is another protocol that I recommend, is that you don't just create a digital one, because your first red flag is the fact that it's easier. Again, there's another conversation. It takes a different part of your brain. Not the part that we want, which is the intuitive piece, right? So, but a power word is a great place to start. I actually worked with a grade 6 class yesterday. I had 30 kids, and I supported them to dream really big. And, they are up to some big things in the world. One of the little guys said that he wants to save the rainforest. Other little girl said she wants no kid to ever be hungry. Someone said, that they just want to tell the whole world about Jesus. And I was just like, preach. Like, it was just so powerful. And so that's a really great place to start, is thinking about, if time and money, usually the two biggest objections to dreaming big. Those are the limiting beliefs that show up for just about everybody. If they were no object, if you just had all the time in the world, all the money, all the resources you needed, what would you do? And so thinking about that and creating your purpose, and then what's a word that pops out at you that's joyful, that feels inspiring, moves you to action, feels safe. And my word this year is pour, like pour into. And so, yeah, because I have an academy that I now, this is another thing that's manifested for me, is that I teach others to do my business. So I'm not just a one woman show anymore. We were talking earlier about legacy, and this is my legacy in that I'm now passing on my business. In fact, like everything that I'm doing to others. And my commitment this year was to pour everything into my students, my graduates, because what I know, again, I'm a Christian, is that when I pour out, I'm poured back into. And so that's my word. And so that's a really great place to start. So that's my half, because it's just a little mini. I just use like a file card, like a recipe card, or you can use like a, the back of a greeting card and just write your word on there. Maybe you want to, accessorize it with small images or stickers, and then put it where you can see it every day. And, when things get challenging and tough, like I had a couple of years ago when I was just like you, leaving my corporate job, I had given my board of directors notice. I gave them 6 months. I didn't know about COVID. And I gave it in January 2020. And then March 2020, we know that the world went upside down. And I was like, oh, great. I just quit my job for in-person workshops. And, I really felt tested and really, was like, okay, so the universe just pushed me out of the nest and said, you're meant for something bigger in terms of a global platform. And my word that year was generous. And so as I was exiting my career of 30 years, hiring my successor, creating new policies for COVID, but I was in childcare. Whenever I felt my energy dip or felt like I was going below the line, I would just say, what would my most generous self do? And I got to show up as her. And so that has been really powerful for me, is to create that little mini vision board. But then, yes, my bigger vision board lasts anywhere from a year to 18 months. My one you can see hanging over my shoulder there, that one actually, I'm ready to create a new one. I just did some work this weekend around visioning, and I'm ready to level up. So I'm super excited.
Debbi, I gotta say, talk about faith and talk about the fact that you stepped out when the world literally shut down. Everything was like, nope, ain't nobody going nowhere. We're all staying put in this boat. But that level of faith, the size of a mustard seed that we tend to have, is that seed that tends to spread a lot faster than what we realize. And that's been the case for me since we, connected back in March of this year. I mean, I am amazed even at myself, like, holy crap, Portia, you literally are a full-time entrepreneur living the life that you prayed for. And we've all had bouts in the school of adversity too, of course. We can't say that it was just a one slow, steep, very not so steady road. For a lot of us, it has been a very steep hill with lots of bumps and bruises in between, but that's for a whole nother day. Debbi, for our listeners who are tuning in, if they want to connect with you and really do this right, can you share with us your social media handle or website where people can connect with you?
Sure. Yeah. Thank you. So my company's name is Dare to Declare, and my website is Dare, but the number 2 Declare. Or you can use my name. Just Google my name. It's Debbi, Debbi. My last name is Sluys, Sluys. .com. So my website's there. There is a couple of freebies on there. So there is an e-guide that you can download that I'm pouring into others, and that I literally give away the entire process. So if you wanted to create a Dare to Declare vision board with all my intentional protocols, it's in that e-guide. You can download that as well. There's a fun little quiz So I love to support my clients to dream, discover, and declare. And so the quiz actually supports you to see how big do you actually dream? How well do you dig in and discover what it is, like we were talking earlier, what is it that you really want? And lastly, how clearly do you declare to the universe what you want? And so it's broken into those 3 areas. It only takes a couple of minutes to do this quiz, but you get a really great PDF report afterwards as well. Depending on your score, it guides you into some videos that I post for some instruction to support you to dream, discover, and declare. So yeah, that's right on my website, front page there under either Dare number 2 Declare or Debbi Sluys.
I love that. I mean, the fact that you're able to kind of take an assessment and inventory, right? Because one of my coaches said it best. If you can't measure it, you can't manage it. And I think that's perfect, Debbi, that you have that for people to really narrow down, can I really attain this? What do I need to do to step out of my comfort zone into the boat of uncomfortable to be able to level up into the life that I aspire to have? And Debbi, I want to ask this. When you talk about setting the tone for the year with that power word, right? What's the best way for people to pick that? I'm like you. I tend to sit in meditation on my actual birthday, which my birthday is in another month from now. And that's my day for setting the tone for the following year. So my word for this year of 2022 has been present. I've been fully present in every single activity, engagement, and I've noticed the return, right? The law of reciprocity from me being present, because for the longest time I was not. I was fully absent because I was stricken by trauma, depression, all the things adverse that have kept me from stepping into the arena that I'm in today. And so, Debbi, can you shed some light on that? What's a way for people to find that power word for the year? Is it sitting in meditation? Is it really thinking about how high they want to climb in their life?
Yeah. So just want to just go to the left for 1 second, because you made me think about the word gratitude. Like that was a question you asked me. What am I grateful for? And I think with all meditations, with every single day, it's to begin with gratitude. And many people think about gratitude as a thank you for once something has been accomplished or given or received. And the beautiful thing that I teach with a vision board is it's actually an act of gratitude for what is yet to come. So beginning your day with gratitude, not for yesterday, but for today, like being fully present. Yes, thank you for allowing me to breathe, to open my eyes for this new day. And I am grateful for what is yet to come, because I know that all things are for my good. That is trust, that is belief, and that is stepping into your purpose. And when we have that kind of disposition, then that actually determines our outcome. So I would say, to discover your word, start with the same question that Portia asked me. What are you grateful for? Begin there, see what's showing up for you. And then also, as I said earlier, what I did with the kids, where I asked them what their purpose is, what their bigger purpose in life is. How do you want to give back? What kind of legacy do you want to create? And see what shows up for you. And I'll tell you, the kids got it in like 20 minutes. They had words like love, kindness, adventure, family. It was just extraordinary. So just like you did with the cardinal when you were on your walk, be open to receive. So I got this from Jack Canfield. He's my inspiration, my mentor. I got to meet him in person. That's another story, but that manifested last year. But he co-wrote Chicken Soup for the Soul, the Success Principles. And he gave me these 3 words: ask for what you want. So ask, believe that it's possible. And then the last word is receive. And many of us get to the first 2. We ask, we believe because we've seen it happen for others, but it's to be open to receive. And that's what you did, Portia. Like you had your eyes wide open. You were present. and you notice the cardinal, and you didn't just go, oh, that's a pretty bird. No, you're like, what is the universe trying to tell me? Okay, I hear you. I got it. And then you moved into action. And so I think that's really the key as well, is to as you're seeking your word, is to be in those 3 words as well, to ask for what you want, believe that it's possible, and then see what's showing up for you, what words are kind of coming to you, and try not to be into the state of left brain, which is controlling the outcome, because you're like, that word, okay, that's just weird. I don't know, why does that keep coming to me? Write it down, meditate on it, try it on like a great sweater, and see how it feels. And play around with it. And it doesn't have to be rushed. It can take a few days, or a week, and just write it down, set it out there, and see. The interesting thing is the law of attraction will begin working as soon as you decide. And you'll begin to notice that word in multiple places, and then you'll know that's right.
Debbi, I'm just blown away, speechless, because it's hard for me to really paint the picture for people who have not seen it in their own life, right? When you talk about asking, I asked for this life that I currently have. I believed it was possible. And then that receiving part, I think that's where a lot of people get hung up, because we have that mindset of, I want to receive it in a certain way. It has to come in the golden box, with the bows around it. I mean, with the cardinal idea, this cardinal comes flying in the tree, just singing and humming away. And I'm like, okay, the fact that my friend, who has not even met me in person yet, tells me I'm going to quit my job. I started laughing. I said, I'm not believing this. I'm not buying it. And then sure enough, the same day at noon, I sent my notice. And then the very next day, I had a Zoom call with someone who convinced me to come to the networking event that I met you at. So when you talk about receiving confirmation, I think that's the beauty, right? It's that surprise. We call each day the present for a reason, because we're going to receive some type of gift if we're open to it. I mean, just waking up every day, just being present, right? Having this conversation with you, expressing gratitude. Oh, Debbi, I can't even tell you, when you talk about meeting somebody who's been like your childhood role model, I've met 2 of mine this year, 2. So the very first person I met, I've always been a big fan of Garrett Morgan, who's the creator of the traffic light and also the gas mask. Well, I went to an event earlier this year where they were showcasing a 15-minute film on how he marketed the gas mask. And of course, who does Portia sit next to at the event? His grandchild. Networked, talked to them, everything. They're going to be coming on my show soon. So stay tuned, everybody. Spoiler alert. Then I'm a big concert junkie. I love concerts. I love music. Well, I bought VIP tickets to see one of my favorite bands for the 3rd time, because they come from Italy. So when I went to see them this 3rd time, I got 5 minutes to speak to the lead singer one-on-one, and she took a picture with me. I mean, when you talk about receiving, I would have never thought. You just never know, and just being open to that law of reciprocity. I think that's really the beauty of life, and that also kind of ties into our discussion, Debbi, about vision boards, right? Being open to the possibilities, set the tone, but stay on the path where you're able to really reap it and fully feel too. Because let's be honest, that emotional piece is key. Debbi, I got to ask you this. You are very passionate about what you do. I mean, you get to obviously travel and do all these great things by helping people take their vision to fruition. And so, Debbi, how do you find that balance between your passion for helping others to reach their goals and dreams, and also maintaining your mental well-being?
The beautiful thing is that I get to have it all. And I think sometimes, including myself, it feels like you have to trade one thing for another. So that it's like, okay, well, if I'm going to go, like crazy in my business, that means my family's going to suffer. Or if I have to focus on my family and that they're feeling like they really need me and I'm, feeling guilty, then I've got to let something go with my business. But I think it's beginning with the vision of having it all. And that's where, when you have this vision board and this vision for this beautiful life where they are intertwined, that it's not a balance, but it's rather a blending. Because balance to me reminds me of like a teeter-totter, where it's going up and down, and you're just trying to get it balanced. Well, it's very rare that you'd actually ever do that when you're on a teeter-totter, but rather that it's like a blending of a beautiful ingredients of a cake, and that it's a little bit of business, it's a little bit of family. Like yesterday, I got to be with this class of 30 kids. Then I got to go on a coaching call. Then I got to go on a 2-hour walk with my grandson. It's like I get to have it all. And, as I'm walking, I'm getting some exercise. This is a new commitment I've made to my physical health as well, which also impacts my mental health, because that's one thing that has waned during COVID, is that I literally sat my bum in this chair and put my face in front of the screen, and I really kind of stopped moving, and my body's complaining, and rightly so. So I get to release weight, I get to increase my energy. And I made that commitment, actually, the 30-day challenge for myself beginning yesterday. So I started that with my walk with my grandson. So how do I do it? I create a commitment, I decide, and then in my integrity, I stay with it. But I also know, so what I'm not doing is, I'm not saying I'm going to the gym 5 days a week. I'm not saying that. I want to have a goal that fits into what I'm currently doing. And knowing that when I achieve that, I can build off on that celebration. And then maybe in a month, I will be ready to go back to the gym. But right now, it feels good to meet my goal of movement exercise by starting with walking. So I think sometimes we want to jump to the great big, task. And I love this quote. It says, "Little hinges swing big doors." And so when you want to have big changes, it's really in our small daily habits. So you don't need to, and actually, in order to be successful and to sustain them, I would suggest you not try to do huge kinds of change in your behavior, but the small things, and keep your promises to yourself. For me, I meditate every day. I pray. My text this morning from my devotional was, "Love bears all things." And that just spoke to my heart. And the devotional that went along with it just reminded me that my Heavenly Father, He's got me, and He sees all things. And so, I did. And so I knew I had to come on to your, was coming on to this. And I was like, nope, I could go scrolling Facebook, or I'm going to dive into my devotional. And I chose to do that. And so it's about keeping your integrity to your small habits, which then, spring open wide, big doors.
Well, and then it adds up, right? It's that multiplying of your life. And I love what you said, Debbie. Blending. You can have it all. It's just about finding a way to not let all the things put you into a hole, but finding a way to make all the things functionable. Right? I mean, you said it. You get to be on calls for a couple hours, then you get to go on your walk with your grandkid, keep your, healthy routine, then obviously make your own lunch at home or whatever you want to do. So it's really finding a way to have it all and not be too consumed with, oh, well, I have to sacrifice, when really you can have it all minus the sacrifice. And the sacrificing is obviously maybe some time out with friends and that, but it all depends, finding that key that fits the door for you. I mean, start small, start definitely small, and it adds up over time. Oh my goodness, Debbie, I knew this conversation was worth the wait, because I feel like I even have literally been taking notes this whole time in between for things that I plan to implement for myself moving forward. I mean, blending. I'm just still like blown away by that, because we're taught to pick one or the other instead of, you can have both. Just find a way to maintain both, right? It's finding I think that's where the balance comes in. It's finding a way to keep them all on a pedestal that's healthy enough where you're not drowning in one and then saying you want to commit to the other. So, Debbi, for our listeners, I always love, once again, thank you so much. Thank you again, because I think so many of us needed this conversation today, even myself included, because we tend to also think when we see someone who is successful, we don't realize that they had to start small and that they had to do a whole mindset shift to maintain that commitment, like you said, integrity to yourself. I had to learn that a lot this year about keeping that promise. Okay, Portia, you're getting up at 4, do your gratitude, prayer and meditation. I do a 5-minute grounding guided meditation every morning to help me to like stop the ADHD squirrel brain from taking over, but that's for a whole another day. Debbi, for our listeners who are tuning in, you have left us with so many words of wisdom, ways for us to take action, and to really pursue the life of our dreams, that we aspire beyond the societal prescription narrative that it's the hype life. Debbi, what words of inspiration can you leave with our listeners today? Whether it's someone who was once in your shoes, who took that leap, left their corporate job in the middle of a pandemic, wasn't sure whether to keep going or to tank, or if it's someone who's reached a peak in their life and they want to make a pivot and start from scratch today. What words of inspiration, Debbi, can you leave with our listeners today?
Okay, great question. So I'll leave you with 3 words, but I'm going to invert them because most people think about a vision and a vision board as, what do I want to have? So that first word, have, and it's about the stuff. So whether you're just beginning or leveling up, it's like super focused on results and, things. And then the next word is do. Many people are, into the doing, into the hustle, into the grind, right? So they're just like focused on the goals. And then they're like, okay, and then I'll be happy. So have, do, and be, then I'll be happy. And I want to take those 3 words and just flip it on its head. So for your listeners to think about, who do I get to be, the best version of me? And that, going back again to that power word, is to focus on your word as your being, as your beacon, as your light. So who do I get to be in the world? I get to be someone who, pours into others. Portia gets to be someone who is fully present, that gift. I know she's a gift to so many. And so when you have that vision of the highest version of yourself, because that's really where it begins. Our self-image essentially determines who we become. So it's so important to understand the power that you have. And then it's the doing, which are the goals. So getting into the doing of the being, which is like, we talked about that, keeping the promises to ourselves, the integrity. And then the have, leave that up to the universe. Because when you are in the being, when you are then taking action in the doing, the have, it's going to show up. And I love that you said, sometimes we want to, really control that outcome. But when you leave it up to God, it's always bigger and better than what we imagine, because we can only dream as big as our human existence, as big as what we know and what we've experienced. But what I've experienced is that when it manifests, it's divine intervention, which means that it's bigger and better, and sometimes comes in a different package. So you've got to keep your eyes wide open with that state of gratitude in order to see what's being sent your way, because I've seen it before. I've coached people and I'm like, did you know that thing that was sent to you was actually what you've been asking for? It's just bigger and better, and you turned it down. And, it's like, oh, you're right. So always be in this state of anticipation, expectation, gratitude, and be, do, and have.
Yes, 3 simple words: be, do, have. I mean, I couldn't have said it better, Debbi, because we've got to change the way we view things. Our perspective is definitely a determinant on our success. And once we are able to shift our perspective from, why does this keep happening to me, to what is this trying to teach me, that's when the doors will definitely start to open. Well, everybody, That was our Dare to Declare founder, Miss Debbi Sluys, that you heard from. And that concludes another episode of Grew with Portia on this Motivation Monday. Thanks for listening and have a great and awesome week, everybody.